And long COVID's effects are still haunting millions of Canadians, with symptoms lingering for months or even years. Melissa Nakhavoly speaks to one woman whose illness has turned into a lifelong struggle.
Lorraine Graves led a very active life.
I'd go out 4 or 5, sometimes more times a week at night to do arts reviews. I lived like I had the wind in my hair.
Until 2020, after contracting COVID-19, her world shrank as she began living with the devastating effects ever since.
I can be up an hour a day. I can try and work for an hour a day, but if I have a shower, that comes out of that hour. If I empty the dishwasher, that comes out of that hour.
Lorraine has been living with long COVID, an illness that presents long after an initial COVID infection, with symptoms like shortness of breath, fatigue, and brain fog, among others, that can last for months or, in Lorraine's case, years.
If you overdo it by thinking too hard, getting too upset or excited, or doing too much, within a few days, you absolutely crash and your brain doesn't work, your body doesn't work.
Lorraine is not alone. Long COVID affects people of all ages. For families like Rebecca Lukowitz, the impact is felt even by children. Her 13-year-old son, Ethan, has been suffering from symptoms like stomach pain and nausea since becoming ill with COVID in 2022.
It just progressively got worse and then continued on with this new baseline of debilitation. And luckily at 13 months in, we got some support from a medical professional at Sick Kids.
Rebecca struggled to find resources and support for her son, as long COVID in children remains under-recognized and underfunded.
He's being sidelined, by life, because of this. And at this point, he's known nothing but pain and suffering.
The exact number of Canadians affected by long COVID is unknown, but a 2023 report from Statistics Canada estimates that roughly 1 in 9 adults have experienced lingering symptoms from COVID-19, impacting roughly 3.5 million Canadians.
It's a clinical diagnosis. There are no blood tests that can say, yes, someone has long COVID and no, someone doesn't have long COVID.
5 years into the pandemic, experts are still learning about the causes of long COVID. They also warn that repeated exposure to the virus, especially more than 3 times, increases the risk of developing long-lasting symptoms.
COVID is still around. It's important to take precautions.
And for those living with the illness, years after coming into contact with COVID-19, they hope for more research, funding, and more importantly, answers.
And I think this just needs to come out of the shadows, and I think people need to start actually realizing that this is affecting more people than you can imagine.
Believe us, long COVID is all too real for far too many Canadians.